Hey everyone, it's Ben Hardy here, and in today's going to be talking about the all-new 2024 Subaru Impreza. Before getting into this video though, as always, if you want to save time and money the next time you purchase a car, link to my car buying guide in the description down below. And then if you want to see more videos just like this, then I recommend you subscribe because I post content every single day. Let's get into it. Subaru is finally releasing a new version of the Impreza, and this actually follows their recent release of the new Crosstrek, and we're going to be talking about the Crosstrek quite a bit in today's video because, well, the Crosstrek and the Impreza are basically the same car. One's lifted and one is not. But anyways, this will be a 2024 model year car. The official release will be November 17th, and so I guess if you're a big Subaru fan, then mark your calendar, November 17th. And this is actually exciting because a lot of automakers are getting rid of cars like the Impreza because they just don't sell in the volume amounts that they did prior. I mean, right now Subaru is selling well over 100,000 Crosstreks per year, and they're selling like less than 30,000 Imprezas per year. And so it actually would make sense for Subaru to kind of double down on the Crosstrek. So again, props to them for keeping the Impreza around. Now, with what was released on the Crosstrek, we can guess that a lot of the stuff's going to carry over to this new Impreza. And so we're still going to have the same 2-liter flat 4-cylinder that's paired to a CVT automatic that produces about 152 horsepower. And then the Crosstrek also does have that upgraded powertrain that produces 182 horsepower, the 2.5-liter flat 4-cylinder. So could see that in the Impreza as well. Now, we don't have any confirmation if the Impreza is still going to have a manual transmission, and so that is up in the air at this point. It seems like Subaru is kind of going all in with CVTs, which is definitely a very interesting choice, but hopefully there is still a manual. Maybe they'll finally give us a 6-speed manual in the Impreza, but I doubt it. There's not a lot of development happening with manual transmissions at this point with most automakers, so if they do still offer a manual, it'll probably be the 5-speed that has been in the Impreza for quite some time. And then when it comes to styling with the car, it's going to look just like the Crosstrek, except it won't have as much body cladding as the Crosstrek, right? Because that's what the Impreza's always been, is just, well, actually the Crosstrek's always been an Impreza with a lift and body cladding because the Impreza came first. So again, just kind of imagine the new Crosstrek styling just with a lot less body cladding and everything, and that's what the Impreza will look like on the outside. And then same thing with the interior updates. All the stuff that you have in the Crosstrek will carry over to the Impreza, and that's just what Subaru does with all their cars. They pretty much all have the same interior, it's just slightly different with the spacing depending on how large the vehicle is. Now, the thing that's really interesting is the teaser that Subaru released with this new Impreza only shows a hatchback. And so there's a chance that this new Impreza might be sold as a hatch only, which actually makes quite a bit of logical sense because first off, the hatch is actually popular. The sedan does sell well, but the hatch is the one that everyone wants and everyone likes. And so just kind of like streamlining things where it's hatch only makes logical sense, and it'll save Subaru quite a bit of money because then they don't have to build out 2 different body styles for the US market. They can just focus on building out one body style, which would ultimately lower costs, and that's really important in today's market when everything is extremely expensive. Now, when it comes to pricing, everyone's obviously raised the prices quite a bit over the last few years, and so with this new Impreza, I would expect the base package to be somewhere in the $20,000 range, again, just depending on the exact options that are put on the vehicle, and then a loaded up one will, yeah, for sure be in excess of $30,000 at this point with the recent increase in car prices. And so, yeah, not huge changes for the Impreza, but that's just kind of what Subaru does. They're always, you know, pretty conservative with their changes when it comes to releasing new vehicles, and I think that's part of the reason why people like them so much. Now, we can't just talk about the Impreza, we also have to talk about what the Impreza competes against. So the Hyundai Elantra is kind of like a car that's going to compete against the Toyota Corolla. That's probably the one that everyone is interested in terms of comparisons. And then also the new Honda Civic as well. That's probably another one. And then the Mazda 3. And here's the deal. With this new Impreza, some things that make it really popular for people is, first off, Subarus are actually pretty dang reliable nowadays, despite what you'll hear about head gaskets and CVTs and all this and that. They actually are pretty dang reliable, especially those little naturally aspirated 4 cylinders paired with the CVTs. It actually does a pretty good job long term. And so it's got that going for it. And then obviously Subaru makes it so all of their cars have all-wheel drive as standard except for the BRZ, but I mean, that's a Toyota, right? So that's another thing that's really appealing with the Subaru is it doesn't matter what package you get with the Impreza, it's always going to have their symmetrical all-wheel drive system, so it's going to do really well in winter conditions. And if we compare that to the Corolla, with the Corolla, unless you get a GR Corolla, you don't have all-wheel drive. Even with the Corolla hatchback, it's still a front-wheel drive based car. And so that's something that the Subaru definitely has over the Toyota is the all-wheel drive side of things. But with the Corolla, you can get a 6-speed manual with rev matching, which is definitely something that, you know, it's great for enthusiasts. So it's got that. And so if this new Impreza gets rid of the manual transmission, that's really going to hurt it with enthusiasts compared to something like the Corolla. And then if we move from that to the Mazda 3, this is where things get kind of interesting because with the Mazda 3, it comes standard with front-wheel drive, but you can add all-wheel drive to the Mazda 3, which makes it competitive with the Impreza. And the other thing the Mazda 3 has going for it is it has a regular torque converter automatic, which is so much better than a CVT when it comes to overall drivability. And so that's one thing with the Mazda 3. And then another benefit is you can get the Mazda 3 with a turbocharged engine, whereas the Impreza is most likely not going to have a turbocharged engine. There have been some talks of it maybe having a hybrid similar to the Crosstrek, but yeah, no turbocharged 2.4 liter flat 4-cylinder being thrown under the hood with the Impreza. And so that's something that the Impreza is definitely going to have to fight against is that turbocharged engine with the Mazda 3. But something to mention is those turbo Mazda 3s are pretty expensive, especially when you compare it to a similarly equipped Impreza. And so, you know, pricing's definitely a thing there. And then with the Hyundai Elantra, this one's kind of a little bit of an interesting one that I decided to throw into the video. And I guess we can also put the Kia Forte in there as well, because kind of similar in a sense. With the Elantra, you can obviously get like the full-on N package, and that thing's crazy, but super low production. With regular Elantras, I think the big benefit with them is you get a lot of features at a really low cost, but again, you don't have all-wheel drive, so that's another downside there. And then the other big one that a lot of people will probably compare it with is the new Honda Civic. You can get the Honda Civic with a hatchback, you can even get it with a manual transmission and a turbocharged engine. Super fun car, but only front-wheel drive. And so you can see that Subaru is still doing what Subaru does best and is throwing all-wheel drive in all of their cars, and that's definitely helping them out. That being said, I do think that there is going to be less and less volume with this Impreza unless they make some major change to kind of attract more enthusiasts, because yeah, you'll get a large group of people that'll purchase the Impreza because it's a good, reliable A to B car. But if you really want a car to sell in high volume numbers when it's in one of these segments, you got to have an enthusiast version. And yes, Subaru does have the WRX, but there's a lot of people that don't want to buy the new WRX because first off, it doesn't come in hatchback form. And secondly, it's kind of gone towards the more like weird off-roady side of things. So it's just kind of all over the place. And so I think if Subaru kept the manual transmission in the Impreza, that would help out. Them obviously offering it as only a hatchback will definitely help out, but you know, maybe offering some sort of turbocharged powertrain or something just to kind of make things a little bit more exciting. I mean, think of an Impreza with, I mean, this doesn't sound like crazy exciting, but just over 200 horsepower and a manual transmission, I think, and all-wheel drive, right? I think a lot of people would like something like that, especially with high gas prices and everything. That would be a good, reliable, economical hatchback. Anyways, let me know what you guys think about the new Impreza, and let me know how you think it compares to the other cars within the segment. I'll see ya.